What is up, ladies and gentlemen? How are you all doing this evening? And welcome to the very first episode of Cinetober 2021, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, Cinetober is here, and you know that this is my favorite season, and what a way to start Cinetober than with Venom Let There Be Carnage, even though Carnage is not on the shirt. I really wanted to talk about this movie. I seen it a couple days ago with my buddy Joey. That's right, Joey, I'm dropping your name in here. And I'm just going to go ahead and say right now, Carnage is my favorite Spider-Man villain of all time. The very first time I was ever introduced into the character was actually in Spider-Man PlayStation 1, and that's all I ever knew about the character. But when I actually seen him in Spider-Man the Animated Series on a Saturday morning, I remember, it was a random Saturday morning, and I seen Carnage there for the very first time. I was like, holy crap, this is what Carnage is like? That is freaking awesome. Carnage is my favorite Spider-Man villain of all time. That's right, he's my favorite Spider-Man villain. He's basically the Joker of Marvel. And so when I seen that they were going to adapt Carnage at the end of the first movie, which in all honesty, I didn't really like the first movie that much. I had a very big problem. The nerd in me was like, oh, they didn't adapt the story right. They didn't really do some stuff right. And then, but you know, I also kind of enjoyed it as a movie by itself. And so then when I seen that we were getting Cletus Cassidy, I was like, alright, we're going to get Carnage. This is going to be Carnage's very first time on the big screen. And when I seen that Woody Harrelson was cast as Cletus Cassidy, I was like, that is actually a very good choice. I actually thought he did a good job as Cletus Cassidy. Now, they did change some things around with his backstory, and they changed one thing, and you know what? I didn't mind it. I didn't mind the one thing that they changed about his backstory. I really didn't. And I'm just going to go ahead and say right now, as a film, I would probably give this about a C to a C+. The only reason it gets bumped up is because of that awesome end credit scene. If you do not want to know anything that goes on in this movie, I would say go on ahead and just stop watching now. I will go on ahead and get some other things out of the way real quick. The effects are a lot better. The chemistry between Tom Hardy and the symbiote. Tom Hardy does a great job with the banter that he is given. He does a magnificent job. They listen to the fans, and they actually had the fight scenes in the light, or if they were fighting someplace in the dark, it was at least a lit up area. So they listened, and I liked that. I thought that was very good. You could see what was going on. I will say that sometimes the camera is kind of like a little shaky cam, or there's stuff's going on too fast, and it doesn't seem like the camera can keep up. So sometimes it is a little hard to tell what's going on, but you can see who is who, and at times you can tell what's going on. I thought it was a vast improvement. Now, the thing about this movie that bothered me so much, and this is when I'm going to get into spoilers, I did not like how they did Carnage. Now, I understand you've got to make changes, but if you're going to make changes, it's at least got to be changes that are right for the character. Now, how the way the movie ended, I can kind of see why they did it, but I did not like how they did Carnage, because of the thing about Carnage, his bond with the symbiote, Cletus Cassidy's bond with the Carnage symbiote, is a very perfect match. Versus Eddie Brock and Venom, they are not a perfect match. Now, yes, they are a good match, but they are not completely symbiotic like how Cletus Cassidy is with the Carnage symbiote. He bonded to his symbiote on such a level, to the most powerful level, that it is freaking terrifying. Because with Eddie and Venom, Eddie's kind of having to basically, tell the symbiote, okay, we cannot do this. It's all, Venom is two people having the same thoughts. That is why they speak in characteristics of we. They are two entities. Carnage is one entity, and Carnage always says, I. He'd be like, in the animated series, for example, he says, I hoped we'd run into you again, or think of the damage we can do. That's how Carnage talks. He never talks as we. He never talks as his own, like the symbiote talking to Cletus. That's never how it is. They are bonded together as one, and the symbiote has turned its back on Cletus before, but it was never because of where they could not agree on something. It was never Cletus being like, no, leave her alone and stuff like that. And I will say the change that they made in his backstory affected the relationship with the symbiote, because Cletus is in love with his symbiote. He loves that symbiote, and he's bonded to it so well that even if he were to lose it and it get destroyed, he can create another one from his bloodstream. That is how perfect his matches with the symbiote. It's that perfect, and it is scary, and that is what makes him such a threat in the Marvel Universe. It's had to take the Fantastic Four, Venom, and Spider-Man to bring Carnage down. That is the character of Carnage. That is what Carnage is, and I just feel like that they did not do justice to the relationship between Cassidy and the Carnage symbiote, and Carnage as a character itself. Now, there are other versions of Carnage where he doesn't need a host, and he's just a dang parasite, and he is just, like in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, Carnage doesn't need a host. Or at least not for very long, or something along those lines. But the version that they are adapting, I just did not like what they did with it. Now, this is honestly what I would have done. Spoilers, major spoilers here. In this movie, there is a scene where, you know, the symbiote starts getting really huge, and in all honesty, that is comically accurate, but the way how he does it in the movie, it's not comically accurate at all. But what I would have done, because there is a scene where his girlfriend, Shriek, in this movie, she is like, oh no, baby, this is way too much, and I'm just like, no, please don't do this. And they had Cletus, you know, being more in love with the woman than the symbiote. What I would have done is I actually would have had him ditch her at the near the end of the movie and just bond completely with the symbiote. Like, you know, either I have to choose her or choose the symbiote. He always chooses the symbiote. That's what I would have done. I would have had him drop her and just bond with the symbiote, because that is the true nature of Cassidy. He loves the symbiote, and he loves causing carnage. It's not because, I mean, partial is it that he was, you know, beaten as a kid and he was just put in multiple worse situations after another, but he was also a freaking psychopath. He was just born a psychopath. And now I understand, like, you know, and nowadays, like, we're trying to, you know, identify with the villain and have sympathy for them. Cassidy is one of those villains that you do not have sympathy for. He is that much of a psychopath. He thinks the only way to live in this world is to basically, is death. That's his whole entire thing. And when to see them, you know, like, turn him from that into like, oh, I am a vengeful person. I'm going to get revenge on everyone because of what they did to me. Instead of him trying to kind of, he's kind of like, instead of him being like the Joker in Marvel, he's kind of like the Zaz in Marvel, because Zaz is kind of the same way. So that's what I would have done instead of him being like, you know, I'm not crazy. He's legitimately crazy. But I will say that one thing I do like about this movie is they do kind of base it off of, you know, everyone loves serial killers. And, like, the whole entire thing of him trying to get Eddie Brock to tell his story. He's like, you know what? People love serial killers. People love true crime, you know, including me. And I did like how they added that little thing of real life. You know, everyone is obsessed with crime cases and serial killers and stuff like that. So I thought that was a really good idea. I thought that was very interesting. With the end credit scene, I would say that, like I said, I would say that this movie is a C+, maybe. But I had the same problems with this movie that I did with the first Venom movie. I would say I just like this one a little bit more because it has Carnage, but just like how they nuked the character, I don't think I'm ever going to watch this movie again. But guys, what did you think of Venom Let Be Carnage? What do you think about the end credit scene? I really want to know. Don't forget to elbow drop that like button. Don't forget to comment, subscribe. What is your favorite Carnage story arc? What is your favorite version of Carnage? Who is your favorite symbiote out of Venom, Carnage, Shriek, Riot, Toxin? Those are the only ones that I can remember. Guys, this is going to be a very good year, because we're going to tackle some Resident Evil. Have a good night, guys.